What is spinal arthritis? Hey everybody, this is Mike Erlob with another episode of Power Your Life. It is great to be here with you. Today, I want to talk about a topic that is, believe it or not, extremely common, and that is spinal arthritis. Most of us think that this is only for those who are older. So, that's our common think. You think arthritis, and you may have been to the doctor, and he may have taken X-rays of your back, and he said, you've got a little arthritis back there, and you kind of think like, how could that be? I'm not old enough. We tend to think that arthritis is something that just only happens to us when we're in our later years of life. And that's just simply not true. I've seen arthritis affect patients as young as 30. And so, it can hit you at any stage of life. And, no one is immune. It can happen to any of us. And the scary thing about it is arthritis in general is getting to be more and more common. We're seeing it hit us and hit. I'm seeing it hit a lot of my patients and clients earlier in life. Whereas I used to not see it in individuals until they were maybe into their late 60s, mid 70s, or early 80s. We kind of see it there, and it just seems over the course over the last 20 years that it's becoming more and more prevalent in those of us that are younger. Those that are in their 30s and 40s. And it makes me think, it makes me kind of question, why is that? Why am I seeing this trend that arthritis is occurring in clients at an earlier age? And, there really are a lot of reasons for that. I don't think there's any just one, and it would be nice if there was a clear-cut answer. And unfortunately, there's not. There's a lot of reasons, and the reason for that is arthritis the causes are multifactorial. Okay, so that means that there are multiple reasons, multiple factors that all come into play that affect your joints. And in this case, we're going to talk about the spine. We're going to talk about your lower back specifically. But, the multifactorial causes of this can occur from, first of all, genetics is a part of that. If you have or carry a gene that predisposes you to early wear and tear of your cartilage, you're going to be more prone to get arthritis. Doesn't guarantee you'll get it. You're just going to be more prone to it. Trauma. The number of injuries that you have had, trauma, repetitive overuse, repetitive in the case of the spine, repetitive bending, twisting, pushing, and pulling, doing those same movements over and over and over again, it takes its toll on the joint itself and can lead to early degeneration. So, and of course, trauma goes without saying. If you've been in car accidents, if you've had a lot of injuries when you played sports as a kid, and that could be one of the reasons too, because kids are playing sports at younger and younger in age. If we think back to, I'm 49, so I think back to when I was growing up into the mid to late 70s. We didn't play organized sports until you were maybe 10. It was like around third grade or so, third, fourth grade, before you really got into organized YMCA soccer or Little League or those kinds of things. And kids today are now playing at preschool organized sports. So we're seeing more and more kids at an earlier age. And of course, activity is great for them. It's great for them to get out and run. But it seems like that the sports are becoming more intense a lot earlier and more competitive, which places more load on those growing bones. And that we can, adolescent sports injuries, that can be a whole nother episode. We can talk about that too. But as we get more active, there's more chances for injury. So trauma is a cause. Let's face it, we walk on concrete. And so all of this just walking and standing over time can wear your joints out, and especially your back as well. We, as a nation, we're getting heavier. We are getting bigger. Obesity is becoming a problem. Well, it isn't becoming a problem. It is a problem. It's one of the major health issues that we're facing. I mean, I don't want to downplay COVID-19. That's huge, but obesity and being overweight puts a really huge health risk, and it loads your joints, it loads your back, and it wears those joints out a lot faster. And then the other part is diet, just what we're eating. The standard American diet over the course of, even the last 20 years, but even going back, last 30 to 40 years, it has become so incredibly processed. We're not getting good raw fruits and vegetables like we used to. There's a lot of question about GMOs. There's a lot of question about, how much nutrients are actually in what I am eating. We eat out a lot more, the restaurants and fast food, everything with all these preservatives and additives. I mean, all of that, we'd be fooling ourselves if we didn't think it was taking a toll. And because of that, we're starting to become deficient. We're becoming deficient in certain key minerals and key nutrients. Not to mention, if you're eating a standard American diet, you're eating a diet that's a little bit more heavy based into carbs, a little bit more sugar based. When I mean carbs, it gets broken down into glucose or sugar in your body. That will definitely increase your body's inflammation levels, which then in turn causes faster degeneration and deterioration. Not to mention just how much water you drink, how much sleep you get. I mean, all of these things have a huge part to play in your overall health, but also just in the formation of arthritis. And so, like I mentioned, I could go on and on each of these reasons, and that could be its own episode. But we're here today to talk about spinal arthritis. So what exactly is it? So arthritis, basically, I want you to think about this, okay? Your joint, meaning where two bones come together, those bones have to be protected, all right? So the bones are protected by a layer of cartilage. And the cartilage comes in different types. You have what we call fibrocartilage, and we have articular cartilage. The fibrocartilage is a spongy type cartilage. That's like the meniscus of your knee. Your discs in the spine are made out of fibrocartilage. The articular cartilage is the harder, firmer type of cartilage that coats the bone, that protects it. And simply, all arthritis is wearing away of that articular cartilage, which protects the joints. And in the case of the spine, it's the small little joints of the spine that we call facet joints. So what happens, and let me show you really quick. Come back. Okay, am I back on? All right. So sorry about that. But with Billy Bob, we look at his back. What I'm talking about, when I'm talking about the small joints of the spine, I'm talking about these little things right in here, okay? So each of your vertebrae, they match up and they stack upon one another. And then we got these little joints in between. We call these facet joints, okay? And so these little facet joints, each one of them has a joint capsule and has cartilage which protects it. And so then what happens is that cartilage, which it wears out. And this causes a loss of movement, it causes loss of flexibility, increased inflammation and irritation, and hence then you start getting pain in your spine. So each of these vertebrae are meant to move together, kind of like a big slinky. And so if you start getting this wearing away of these joints, it really starts to lock that up. And it makes it a lot more immobile, and you lose the flexibility, and then it just starts to really hurt. And if this continues, if this trend of, you're becoming more irritated, you're losing the cartilage, goes on long enough, the body senses that there is this this inflammation going on down here. And so then what it'll do is it will actually start laying down more bone. okay? So it causes more bone to grow, which results in bone spurs, and you can sort of see those on x-ray. And the reason that occurs is because your body senses there's extra stress, the cartilage wearing away, so it's trying to stabilize itself. It's trying to say, hey, there's a problem down here, I got to lock it up even more, otherwise I'm going to experience more pain. And so all this extra stress causes these bone spurs, which then if the bone spurs get big enough, they can start pinching on the nerve. It just creates an entire mess that you just don't want to deal with. So I want you to think of cartilage like this, okay? Cartilage, think of this in the terms of a cooking pan, okay? A non-stick cooking pan, all right? Cartilage would be the coating of the pan, all right? So when you buy, have you ever gone to the store, you buy a brand new cooking pan, a brand new skillet, and you go to cook an egg on it. That, like, nothing sticks to it. You know, you can put the egg on that new pan and the egg will just slide all over the place. Nothing sticks to it, okay? Well, that's like the cartilage you have when you're born, and the cartilage when you have before you get all this damage and you start wearing your body out is it's very frictionless, and it allows that movement to occur between the two surfaces really easily. And it, just like that frying pan, everything just slides around real easily. And that's what that cartilage does for your spinal joints, is it coats the bone so nothing sticks. Everything moves really easily. And, you know, when it can get, well, think about this. Kind of got stuck there for a minute. So your pan, you know, as it slides around real easily, what happens over time? Okay, so if you have that pan, and let's say you don't take care of that pan like you're supposed to. Let's say that, you know, you start using a metal spatula on it, and it starts scraping up the coating, right? And you've let a few things get burned on it. I mean, you just didn't take care of it. Well, it gets scratched, right? And it starts to chip and it starts wearing out. So now let's say you have a pan or a skillet that you've kind of abused and haven't really taken care of for the last 5 years. Try and cook an egg on that without using oil or Pam or something else. I mean, it will stick. I mean, nothing will come off of that. And not only does it stick, but sometimes pieces of the coating come off in the food. And this is what happens with spinal arthritis. You see, the cartilage becomes damaged from too much use and lack of care. And it starts to break up, it starts to fall apart, it starts to chip off. And now your spine, you got bone spurs that are forming, and it just doesn't move very easily or smoothly. Now, that's a problem. And, you know, there are things we can do when you get to that stage, but here's the thing. The question you have to ask yourself is, why did it get like that in the first place, right? So it's not the spinal arthritis that's the issue. The real question is, what caused all that stress on your cartilage to begin with? Because I'm here to tell you, the real cause of that arthritis are the imbalances in your body that have created the increased stress, okay? Yes, the diet plays a part of that. Yes, trauma plays a part of that. But repetitive movements, yes, they play a part of that. But what these repetitive movements do is they force you to, they overutilize one muscle group, they underutilize another. And everything in the body, we call this back in biology class, you learn this term called homeostasis, okay? Everything is supposed to be in balance in nature. Everything in your body is supposed to be in balance. When it's not, you have a problem. It's like an ecosystem. When an ecosystem gets out of balance, all kinds of bad things start happening. It's the same thing with your body when it's out of balance. And things like too much sitting, repetitive movement, job tasks, past injuries, they all cause imbalances. Now, when we're talking about the spine, when we're talking about the lower back, there are really 4 major imbalances which occur. And the first one is tight hip flexors, okay? We kind of talked about that. You remember talking about the psoas? You get a really tight psoas. Also, you will get really weak gluteal muscles. You know, we talked about the disappearing butt syndrome. You'll get very weak gluteal muscles. you'll start to get really tight hips. The hips won't move as well. And next thing is you'll get weak abdominals. I mean, all of those things occur. And it increases the stress because now the muscles aren't working like they should. And a good analogy is, if you think of this, is like the front end of your car, okay? So if your tires wear out, you have to replace them. But let me ask you a question. Do you just replace your tires and skip aligning the front end? You would never do that. I mean, no tire shop would sell you a brand new set of tires and not recommend aligning the front end. That's because if you don't align that front end of the car, those tires are going to wear out faster. They're going to become more uneven. And arthritis in your back is just like this, okay? It's the imbalances that cause that increased stress. And so if you don't have balance, if you don't have everything straightened out with those areas, it's just going to continue to put more stress on it. You know, it's like the disc starts to wear out, the back becomes arthritic. A surgeon goes in there to chip out the bone spur, and they maybe do where they remove a little more bone. We call that a laminectomy. If you don't fix the imbalances that cause that to begin with, guess what's going to happen? I mean, once you heal up from that surgery, you go back to doing the same thing again. That pain's going to come right back. The more wear and tear is going to be placed. And now you've actually created a weak link in the spine because you've done surgery and you've cut on it. So now you have scar tissue. You've actually made your situation even worse. So what can you do? You know, what can you do if you already have spinal arthritis? Okay? Or what can you do to avoid it? The first thing I want you to know is you can find relief. Okay? You can find relief naturally, with no drugs, without any side effects, without any injections, without any surgery. But the next thing that I want you to do is you have to start taking action right away. You have to do something, because if you don't, the problem's not going to go away. Your imbalances are not going to fix themselves on their own. You have to take action. So the first thing is you got to start moving, okay? So even though if you already have spinal arthritis, moving hurts. However, moving is key, you see. And if you don't have spinal arthritis yet, you want to avoid it, yeah, you definitely need to move. But our bodies are designed to move. We're meant for that, okay? The human body is a machine. You don't park a machine in the garage and don't do anything with it. You don't do that with your car and just leave it there and never start it, okay? The seals are not going to work. It's not going to start. The battery's going to go dead. Movement is the key to life. Without it, everything falls apart. And this is true in any living organism. They're meant to move. So you have to stop sitting for long periods of time. You have to get up, move around, stretch out your hip flexors, okay? Number two, you got to start working on those imbalances, okay? Those key areas are your tight hip flexors, your weak gluteal muscles, your tight hips, and your weak lower abdominals. Those are really, really important. You need to really start focusing on that. Number three, you have to address your nutritional deficits, okay? So if you're not taking a good multivitamin, start doing that. If you're not taking any kind of joint supplementation, anything with glucosamine in it, glucosamine chondroitin, MSM, natural eggshell membrane, astaxanthin, all of these things are Boswellia serrata extract. All of these things are really very, very good for your joints. They're going to help you to preserve the cartilage that you have, and actually some studies are starting to show that you can actually regrow some new cartilage. Now, there are three actual really important minerals that are becoming more and more absent in our standard American diet, and those are boron, copper, and zinc. Okay, so you know, if you can supplement with anything that has those in it, that will help. The next thing when you're addressing your nutritional deficits, you've got to start alkalizing your diet. Okay, and what I mean by that is you got to eat more vegetables. Just plain and simple. Reduce the meat, cut down the carbs, eliminate the sugar, and just eat more vegetables, more green leafy vegetables, okay? Follow the 80-20 rule. 80% of your plate vegetables, 20% meat. Limit the amount of red meat, chicken and pork. Focus more on fish and seafood if you can. Also, increase your water intake. That's really, really important, okay? So increase your water intake and get rest, okay? Shoot for 8 hours of sleep a night. That's very important. Your body heals when it is resting. Your body reduces inflammation when it is resting, okay? We don't get enough sleep. I did a podcast or did a Facebook Live and a podcast a while back about getting enough sleep. We're just not doing it. That's how your body heals. If you're running yourself on 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night, I know there's a few rare individuals that might be okay, but science doesn't lie. And more research is showing that by us not getting enough sleep and redlining our RPM gauge in our bodies, man, things are going to break down and it's just going to happen. So you've got to be proactive. You've got to do, when I was in the Army, we used to call it preventative maintenance. Gosh, we used to call it PMCS, preventative maintenance check-in services. So you've got to do that, okay? I really hope that you find this helpful. That's my goal, is to get this information out there to you guys, to teach you so you can take it, you can use it, you can start powering your life, okay? You can take charge of it. You can take charge of your health, because in our health system today, no one's going to take charge of your health but you. Okay? It's your body, it's your health. You have to ask questions. You have to seek out the information. I'm telling you, the information is out there. Sometimes you just have to take a little effort to gather it, or you can just watch my show and I'll give it to you. So, which reminds me, by the way, I do have a new ebook available, and it is the 5 best kept secrets for fast back pain relief. So you definitely want to get a copy. You can get your copy for free. All you got to do is message me on Facebook or email me at mike@flex-pt.com and just ask for your free back pain ebook, and I'll make sure you get it. Now, I want to leave you with this kind of thought-provoking quote from John Maxwell. And what he said was, "Where there is no hope in the future, there is no power in the present." You know, think about that. Where there is no hope in the future, there is no power in the present. Just to give you something to kind of chew on. Until next time, stay healthy and keep moving forward.